Mom died, and I found a letter she wrote to my sister saying she never loved me and only put up. Please stay with me as I tell my story. And please, do not forget to support our channel by subscribing to our channel, liking our videos, and sharing your loved ones. Your support means the world to us. Now to our story. Poke. When my mom passed away, I thought I would spend weeks crying and missing her. I thought I would remember her hugs, her smile, and the lessons she gave me while I grew up. But instead of grieving, I found something that broke me in ways I could never explain. While cleaning her room, I discovered a hidden letter she had written to my sister. The words inside were sharper than knives. In that letter, my mom told Amanda that she never loved me and only put up with me my entire life. Reading those lines was like watching every memory I ever had with her turn into a lie. Stick with me while I share my story, and if it touches you, don't forget to support our channel by hitting that subscribe button, dropping a like, and sharing it with the people you care about. My name is Emily, I'm 26 years old, and I grew up in Ohio. On the outside, my family looked normal. We had a house in a quiet neighborhood, a dad who worked hard, a mom who stayed busy around the home, and my older sister Amanda, who was always seen as the bright star of our family. People in town used to say we were lucky, and to anyone who looked in from the outside, I'm sure it seemed true. But living inside that house felt very different for me. As far back as I can remember, I always sensed that something wasn't quite right in the way my mom treated me. Amanda would come home from school with an average grade, and Mom would hug her, call her smart, and bake her favorite cookies. I would come home with straight A's, and all I got was a short nod or a comment about how I could have done even better. On holidays, Amanda got the gifts she wanted, while I usually opened things that felt like afterthoughts. When I was a little girl, I wondered if I had done something wrong, if maybe I was just harder to love. But when I told myself these thoughts, I quickly brushed them away. My dad used to reassure me that Mom loved me too, that sometimes parents just showed affection in different ways. I held on to his words because I needed to believe them. I wanted so badly to feel like I was truly part of the family. Amanda, of course, seemed to enjoy the attention. She carried herself like she was special, like she deserved every ounce of love Mom poured into her. And maybe she did, but deep down I wished for even a fraction of it. I thought maybe one day things would change. Maybe Mom would wake up and realize I wasn't so different from Amanda, that I was worth loving too. But standing in my mom's room after her funeral, holding that letter, I realized the truth. It wasn't favoritism. It wasn't me imagining things. It was real. My mom never loved me. She only tolerated my presence because she had to. That single moment made me question every hug, every smile, every "I love you" she had ever given me. They weren't real. They were just part of the act she played for everyone else. That discovery was the beginning of a story I never thought I would live through. Growing up, it was always clear that Amanda was the center of my mom's world. She was the child who could do no wrong. If Amanda forgot to clean her room, Mom would laugh and say she was busy with more important things. If Amanda came home late, Mom would excuse it as her being independent. Every small mistake Amanda made was brushed off as nothing. Mom always stood up for her, no matter the situation. I remember birthdays where Amanda's gifts were carefully chosen and wrapped with ribbons, things she had asked for and dreamed about. Mine were usually practical items, clothes that Amanda had outgrown or something picked at the last minute. When Amanda won a school award, Mom bragged to anyone who would listen. But when I achieved something, it barely earned a mention at the dinner table. I often felt like my successes were invisible, like I was background noise in my own family. The hardest part was not just the gifts or the praise. It was the way Mom looked at her compared to me. Amanda's presence seemed to light up her face. With me, it was as if she was just waiting for me to leave the room. It hurt, but I told myself I was imagining it. I convinced myself that maybe every family had moments like this, where one child got more attention. Dad tried to balance things out in his own way. When he noticed I was hurt, he would sit with me quietly and remind me that Mom cared for me, even if it wasn't obvious. He would say, "Your mother loves you too, just in her own way." I clung to those words. They were the only thing that kept me from believing I was unwanted. Still, the difference between us grew more obvious as we got older. Amanda always had the latest clothes, the newest gadgets, and freedom to make choices for herself. I wore what was passed down, followed stricter rules, and felt like I was constantly under watch. Whenever we argued, Amanda could count on Mom to take her side, while I was often the one told to apologize. I tried not to let the bitterness sink in too deep. Instead, I focused on school and worked hard to build a future for myself. I spent long nights studying, thinking that if I did well enough, maybe Mom would finally notice me. Maybe she would finally see me as worth loving. When college came around, I moved away. In that distance, I grew closer to Dad. He called often, visited when he could, and showed me the steady love I had longed for from Mom. He became my anchor, my reminder that not everyone in the family saw me as second best. Amanda, on the other hand, stayed wrapped in Mom's attention, carrying her golden child crown proudly. Even as an adult, that divide never faded. Amanda remained the favorite, and I remained the one trying to make peace with it. It all happened so fast. One week Mom was still moving around the house, keeping busy like she always did, and the next she was in the hospital, fading away quicker than any of us could understand. The doctors said it was her heart. There wasn't much they could do. Before I had time to really process what was happening, she was gone. The house felt heavy after that. Relatives filled the rooms, everyone talking in hushed voices, bringing food, offering comfort. Amanda was at the center of it all, weeping loudly, surrounded by family friends who held her like she was a fragile glass figure about to break. People kept saying things like, "Poor Amanda, she was so close to her mother," and "She must be hurting more than anyone." I stood back most of the time, watching the way people rushed to comfort her. My grief didn't look like hers. I stayed quiet, helping Dad with arrangements, answering the phone, and making sure food was served to guests. Nobody seemed to notice how my hands trembled when I set down plates, or how my eyes stung when I tried to hold in the tears. Amanda was the grieving daughter in everyone's eyes. I was just the other one, keeping things together. On the day of the funeral preparations, I went into Mom's room to gather some of her things. The air smelled faintly of her perfume, and every corner of the room felt untouched, like she might walk back in at any moment. My hands shook as I opened her closet, looking through the clothes she used to wear to church, her scarves, and the shoes she lined up so neatly. It was then I noticed a small box tucked on the top shelf. Inside were a few personal papers and a sealed envelope with Amanda's name written across it in Mom's handwriting. My chest tightened when I saw it. I hesitated, staring at the envelope, wondering what it contained. Maybe instructions, maybe words of love, maybe something important Mom wanted Amanda to know. At first, I told myself to leave it where it was. It wasn't mine, and opening it would be wrong. But the longer I stood there holding it, the more curiosity burned inside me. I thought about all the times I had felt pushed aside, all the questions that had never been answered. Maybe this letter held some clue, maybe even something that explained everything I had lived through. With shaky fingers, I slid it open. My heart pounded as I unfolded the paper and saw the familiar handwriting spread across the page. I told myself to breathe, but I couldn't. I felt like I was about to uncover something I wasn't ready to see, yet I couldn't stop myself. That moment, standing in the silence of her room with the letter in my hand, changed everything. I didn't know it yet, but the words inside were about to rewrite my entire life. The letter began with words that made it clear who it was written for. Mom's tone was warm, filled with affection for Amanda. She wrote about how proud she was of her, how she had always been her brightest light. She talked about Amanda's future, urging her to stay strong, to carry on the family name with dignity, and to live the life she deserved. Each sentence felt like a love song, and though it wasn't addressed to me, I couldn't help but feel the sting with every line. Then I reached the part that knocked the air from my chest. In the middle of those loving words, she admitted something I had never heard spoken, but had always feared deep down. She wrote, "I never loved Emily. She was a burden I only tolerated. You were always my only real daughter." I read the sentence again, then again, hoping maybe I misunderstood. But there it was, written in her own hand, clear and undeniable. My knees felt weak, and I had to sit down on the edge of the bed to keep from collapsing. The room seemed to close in on me, and I struggled to catch my breath. All the little moments I had spent my life trying to explain away now came rushing back like pieces of a puzzle that suddenly fit together. Every cold look, every harsh word, every time she ignored my achievements. They weren't accidents, they weren't small slips. They were proof. She hadn't loved me. Not ever. It was like my childhood had been rewritten in front of me. The hugs I thought were real, the forced smiles, the rare "I love you" that I clung to, they were nothing but acts. Pretend gestures to cover up a truth she had carried for years. I wasn't wanted. I was someone she put up with because she had no choice. I sat there shaking, feeling like I had been cut open from the inside. How could a mother see her own child as a burden? How could she give her love so completely to one daughter and deny it so fully to the other? I had always told myself that maybe love just showed up differently for me, that I had to look harder for it. But now I knew there was nothing to look for. The pain wasn't just in the words themselves, but in what they meant for my entire life. Every holiday, every school play, every family dinner, they all felt tainted. I had believed I was part of a family, that even if Mom favored Amanda, deep down she still cared for me. The truth was so much worse. As the reality sank in, I felt more than grief. I felt betrayed. It wasn't just losing my mother to death. It was realizing I never truly had her in the first place. My whole life had been a lie, and the one person who was supposed to love me unconditionally had chosen not to. That truth broke something inside me I knew would never fully heal. For days after finding the letter, I carried it with me like a weight I couldn't set down. I kept thinking about whether I should tell Amanda what I had read. Part of me wanted to confront her, to throw the words in her face and watch her reaction. Another part of me wondered if she already knew. The thought of speaking it aloud, of giving it more power, made my stomach twist. In the end, I folded the letter back up and hid it deep inside my. It was my secret, and for now, I wanted it to stay that way. Life after the funeral carried on slowly, though it never felt the same. Family members still came by for dinners, trying to bring some warmth back into the house. Dad kept himself busy, while Amanda floated around the gatherings like the star of the show. People leaned in to hear her stories, offering sympathy for her loss as though she had carried the heaviest burden of us all. It was during these gatherings that Amanda began slipping little remarks into conversations. At first, I thought I was imagining them, but the pattern became clear. She would say things like, "Mom always trusted me to handle the important things," or, "I guess Mom knew who she could count on." Then one evening, with a smirk, she looked straight at me and said, "Well, Mom always trusted me more than you anyway." The words burned more than I wanted to admit. I forced a smile, trying to play it off in front of everyone else, but inside I felt something shift. The way she said it was too sharp, too confident. It was as if she wasn't just making a jab. It was as if she knew the truth written in that letter. That thought gnawed at me. Maybe Mom had told her years ago. Maybe Amanda had always known she was the chosen one and had reveled in it while I was left in the dark. Suddenly, her smugness over the years made sense. She wasn't just spoiled. She had been fed the certainty that she was loved beyond measure, while I was nothing more than an extra piece in the family puzzle. Anger grew inside me each time she opened her mouth. I had spent my life swallowing the pain, convincing myself it was favoritism, telling myself I was imagining things. But now, with the truth in my hands and Amanda's smirks in my face, I couldn't keep pretending. I wasn't going to play the role of the forgotten daughter anymore. For the first time, I didn't just feel hurt, I felt rage. Rage at Mom for writing those words, rage at Amanda for wearing them like a crown, and rage at myself for letting it go on for so long. I didn't know what I was going to do yet, but I knew one thing for certain. I wasn't going to stay silent much longer. Something inside me had finally snapped. One evening, after another long family dinner where Amanda had made sure to remind everyone of her special bond with Mom, I found myself sitting alone with Dad in the living room. The dishes were cleared, the guests had left, and Amanda had already gone back to her apartment. The silence between us was heavy. I looked at him, his shoulders slumped, his face tired in a way that went beyond aid. For a moment, I almost stayed quiet, but the anger inside me wouldn't let me. "Dad," I finally said, my voice shaking, "did you ever notice how Mom treated me compared to Amanda?" He looked down at his hands, rubbing them together as if trying to warm them. He didn't answer right away, and that silence told me more than words could. When he finally spoke, his voice cracked. "Yes, Emily, I noticed." I froze, staring at him. I had expected denial, or at least another attempt to soothe me, but he didn't. He met my eyes, and his own were filled with guilt. "I knew your mother was unfair to you," he continued slowly, "but I thought protecting you from that truth would spare you some pain." His voice broke then, and I saw tears in his eyes. "I should have stood up for you more. I should have been stronger." Hearing that almost hurt more than the letter. All my life I had held on to his reassurances, his soft words that kept me believing Mom loved me too. Now I knew those reassurances had been lies told out of fear. He hadn't wanted me to face the truth, but in doing so, he had left me to fight it alone. He leaned forward, covering his face with his hands, and I could hear him whisper apologies over and over. "I'm sorry, Emily. I failed you." In that moment, I realized something I hadn't wanted to admit. Amanda hadn't just been Mom's favorite, she had worked to keep it that way. She knew how to play both of them, leaning on Mom for praise and using Dad's silence to her advantage. She had manipulated the whole household, always making sure she stayed on top. The more I thought about it, the more questions filled my mind. If Mom could hide a letter like that, what else had she hidden? What else had Amanda been part of that I didn't know? My whole childhood suddenly felt like a story half told, with pieces missing and secrets buried in the spaces between. That night I made myself a promise. I wasn't going to accept the story as it had been given to me. I wasn't going to stay in the dark any longer. If there were more secrets in this family, I was going to find them. Whatever truth had been buried, I was ready to uncover it. For the first time, I felt a fire inside me stronger than my grief. I was done being silent. Not long after that talk with Dad, I started noticing small details in conversations with people who had known my mother for years. Old family friends would drop little hints without even realizing the weight of their words. One afternoon, I was sitting with Mrs. Carter, a neighbor who had been close to my mom since I was a child. She spoke kindly, trying to comfort me, but then she mentioned something that made my stomach twist. "Your mother was always so proud of the way she set things up for Amanda's future," she said casually, sipping her tea. "She made sure Amanda would be taken care of, no matter what." I asked her what she meant, pretending to be curious, but keeping my voice calm. She looked at me as if I already knew. "The inheritance fund," she said. "Linda told me she left everything in Amanda's name. She didn't want there to be any confusion after she passed." Her words hit me like a punch to the chest. I nodded politely, forcing a small smile, but inside I was screaming. That night, I went to Dad and he confirmed it. My mother had left everything to Amanda. The house, the savings, even the small things of sentimental value. None of it was meant for me. I had been excluded completely. For a moment, I couldn't even cry. The grief I had been carrying was burned away by something much stronger, fury. It wasn't enough that she never loved me. She had made sure I would be erased from the family, even in death. She had tied her love to money and gifts for Amanda, while leaving me with nothing but memories filled with rejection. The rage inside me refused to stay quiet. I started thinking about Amanda and all the times I had seen her misuse Mom's money while she was alive. There were the designer bags, the expensive shoes, the trips she bragged about. She always acted as if she earned them, but I remembered the bank statements that sometimes came in the mail when I still lived at home. I remembered Dad quietly complaining that Amanda had maxed out Mom's credit card more than once. The more I thought about it, the more the pieces came together. Amanda had always used Mom, and now she was walking away with everything. My blood boiled every time I pictured her smug smile, acting like she was the rightful heir. She didn't just get love, she got rewarded for years of selfishness. I couldn't sit back and let it happen. I began writing down every memory, every detail of Amanda's spending. I went through old papers, receipts, and anything I could find that proved how she had taken advantage of Mom. The pain I had carried all my life had turned into fuel. I wasn't going to let Amanda erase me. If she thought she could walk away with everything, she was about to find out I wasn't the same silent sister anymore. I couldn't keep holding everything inside anymore. One evening, I asked Amanda to meet me at the house. Dad was out, and I wanted it to be just the two of us. When she arrived, she walked in like she owned the place, her chin high and her smile smug, as if she already knew what I was going to say. My hands shook, but I stood firm. "I know the truth," I told her, my voice low but steady. "I know Mom never loved me. I know she left me nothing. But what hurts the most is realizing you knew this all along." Amanda didn't flinch. She didn't look surprised or even guilty. Instead, she smirked the way she always did when she felt superior. "Of course I knew," she said, almost laughing. "She told me years ago. You were always the mistake, Emily. I was the daughter she wanted, and you were just there." The words sliced through me, sharper than the letter itself. Hearing them out loud, straight from Amanda's mouth, broke something inside me that had been holding together by a thread. For years, I had begged for scraps of love, convinced myself it was favoritism, and tried to make peace with being second best. But to Amanda, I had never been anything more than an accident. I snapped. Years of silence and swallowing pain boiled over. My voice rose as I told her exactly what I thought of her, of Mom, of the way they had treated me like I was invisible. My hands trembled, my chest ached, but I didn't care. For the first time in my life, I let it all out without fear of being told to stay quiet. Amanda tried to roll her eyes and laugh it off, but I didn't let her. I told her I was done being her shadow, done being Mom's unwanted child, done playing the part of the sister who kept the peace. "You're nothing to me now," I said firmly, and I meant it. In that moment, I cut the last thread tying me to her. After she left, slamming the door behind her, I sat in silence. The grief was still there, but I didn't feel powerless anymore. Instead of curling up in despair, I felt a strange strength. I realized I had something Amanda could never take from me, the truth. And I wasn't going to let her keep everything without a fight. When Dad came home, I told him what happened. His face hardened, and for the first time, he looked ready to stand with me. "She can't erase you, Emily," he said. "Not while I'm here." That night, I made my choice. I wasn't going to keep being the forgotten daughter. I was going to fight for my place, for my share of the estate, and for justice. Amanda thought she had already won, but she had no idea that I was finally ready to fight back, with with Dad standing firmly by my side. With Dad by my side, I contacted a lawyer. At first, I was nervous, unsure if I even had a chance. Mom's will seemed clear. Everything went to Amanda. But my lawyer didn't dismiss me. He listened carefully, then asked me to bring the letter, old financial papers, and anything else I could find. He explained that sometimes wills weren't as clean as they looked, especially if there had been pressure or manipulation involved. As we began digging, things started to unfold in ways I hadn't expected. The lawyer pointed out odd changes in the document. The original draft of Mom's will had both Amanda and me listed, but the final version excluded me completely. The dates didn't make sense either. Those changes were made when Mom was already sick and weak, barely able to make decisions on her own. The more we investigated, the clearer it became that Amanda had played a part in it. There were bank withdrawals she couldn't explain, large sums of money missing during Mom's illness. The lawyer told me this could show undue influence, proof that Amanda pressured Mom when she wasn't in a clear state of mind. When the case went to court, Amanda came in looking polished and confident, like she always did. She acted as if the whole thing was beneath her, tossing me cold glares across the room. Her lawyer painted me as bitter and jealous, someone trying to steal what wasn't mine. She even tried to smear my name by suggesting I hadn't been around to help during Mom's sickness, even though I had been there more than she ever was. It was ugly. Hearing her twist the truth hurt, but I stayed strong. Dad testified, his voice shaking but steady enough to matter. He told the judge how Linda had always treated me unfairly, how I was constantly dismissed and pushed aside. He admitted his own mistakes, saying he had stayed quiet too long, but he made sure they knew I had suffered emotional abuse for years. Then the real evidence came forward. Financial records showed Amanda had been withdrawing money regularly while Mom was bedridden. Some of the funds went to luxury purchases, designer bags, spa trips, even vacations she had taken while Mom was hooked up to machines. The courtroom grew tense as it all came out. Amanda's smug expression faltered for the first time. The truth was undeniable. It wasn't just favoritism, it was exploitation. Amanda hadn't just been the golden child. She had used Mom's weakness to secure control over everything. The will wasn't fair, and the judge could see that. Sitting there, I felt my heart pound with a mix of fear and hope. For the first time in my life, I wasn't invisible. My voice, backed by evidence and Dad's support, was being heard. Amanda's lies were unraveling piece by piece, and the power she had always carried was slipping through her fingers. The case finally came to an end after weeks of back-and-forth arguments, documents, and testimony. When the judge gave the decision, I felt my whole body go numb. He ruled that the will had been influenced unfairly, and I was granted a share of the inheritance. It wasn't everything Amanda had tried to keep for herself, but it was enough. Enough to prove that I had been wronged, enough to show that Amanda's control wasn't absolute. When I looked across the courtroom, Amanda's face was tight with anger. She had expected to win like she always did, to walk away untouched. But this time she couldn't. For once, the truth had stripped away her power. Watching her realize she no longer held all the cards gave me a sense of peace I had never felt before. It wasn't about the money. No amount of money could fix the years of rejection or take away the pain of that letter. But standing there, knowing I had fought back and been heard, gave me something more valuable than any inheritance. It gave me justice. It gave me closure. I decided to use my share to start fresh. I moved into a small place of my own, decorated it with colors I loved, and filled it only with things that brought me comfort. For the first time, my home felt like mine, not a shadow of the house I grew up in, not a place heavy with reminders of favoritism and silence. Dad stayed close to me, visiting often and reminding me that even though he had failed me in the past, he wanted to do better now. Slowly, we began to rebuild our bond, this time on honesty. He wasn't perfect, but he was trying, and that mattered to me more than I could explain. Amanda and I never spoke again. Cutting ties with her felt like lifting a weight off my shoulders. She had been my mother's pride, but she was no longer my problem. She could keep her arrogance and her lies. I didn't need them anymore. One night, sitting alone in my new home, I pulled out the letter one last time. The words still stung, but I looked at them differently now. What was once a wound had become the reason I stood up for myself. The letter that was meant to break me had given me the strength to finally fight back. I may have lost the love of a mother, something I will always grieve, but I gained something just as important. I gained freedom from the lies, the strength to defend myself, and the chance to create the family I choose. Life doesn't always give us the love we deserve from the people we expect it from, but that doesn't mean we are unworthy. Sometimes it takes losing what we thought we needed to discover the strength we already had inside. And that strength is what carries us forward, no matter who tried to hold us back.